it's definitely something that's there. But again, like you said, I guess when it comes to soccer, instead of representing a state, as here in the United States, it's the entire country that the team is representing.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you feel like that's a lot more pressure on soccer players, professional
Oh,
players?
oh, for sure.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
if football emerged across the world and
Mm-hmm.
we made national teams,
Mm-hmm.
there would be a lot more
Mm-hmm.
pressure on the players in the national team than just playing for a domestic team
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
they're representing their whole country, not
Mm-hmm.
just their state, not just where they're from, but their whole country.
Whole country.
And they know that if they fail their country, it's not like another team from their country is going to win.
Exactly.
Somebody else is going to take that, and they will either be looked down on
Mm-hmm.
by some of their countrymen,
Yeah.
but it or just nobody will care. But
Yeah.
inside, they'll feel responsible.
Exactly. Exactly. And like you said, in a sense, they're taking it to the grave because it's almost like you're going to fight a war.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's that
Yeah. Well, yeah.
that crazy, but
Yeah.
you're definitely going and putting stuff on the line.
On the line. Exactly. Exactly. Man, that is to be honest with you, I didn't even think about this until we just started talking about it. Like they're literally carrying a country on their back.
Yeah.
That
And a lot of the times,
mm-hmm.
if their country is looked down on, like Colombia has been
Mm.
looked down on for
Yep.
20, 30, 40 years as the
Wow.
drug capital of the world,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it 90% of the people you will meet there are wonderful people, but there
Yeah.
is that small percent who
Mm-hmm.
are drug dealers, who
Mm-hmm.
are people you do not want to be involved with,
Mm-hmm.
dangerous people, bad people,
Mm-hmm.
and they're there.
Yeah.
So the a lot of the soccer players want to change their country's name, so they'll be like, we want to win, we have to win, and that's not just Colombia, that's other countries that are
Mm-hmm.
looked down on by the world.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to make a name for their country, so they can be proud of something, so their people can be proud of something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Man, that's a great point. Wow. How do you feel like the average mental health of a soccer player, professional soccer player? How do you feel like they juggle this? Like, how do they juggle this pressure, or do they not? Are there cases of suicide? Are there cases of mentally being unstable after they come from the league? Have you seen that?
um I don't know, honestly. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like there probably are for
Mm-hmm.
young players who are starting out,
Mm-hmm.
but I think once they've worked 2 or 3 or 4 years into it
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of know how it works, they're a lot more chillax about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I do know of I think this goalie who was a US goalie who
Mm.
was going to go to the Women's World Cup.
Yeah.
I think she was going to go to the Women's World Cup. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that's what I understood from the article.
Mm-hmm.
She committed suicide 18 months before the Women's World Cup happened. But
Wow.
I think they were looking into like putting her in or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one case. I don't know of any other case. I'm going to check that though, because that's a really interesting question.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because I'm always focusing, around mental health, and I feel like carrying a country on your back, man, that has to be. I'm sorry, that just has to be some level of pressure that we know nothing about.
Wow. Okay.
Uh-oh.
It's not not much, barely.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
Okay.
it's like 0.25% to 0.40%.
Okay.
It's not much.
Wow.
Of the 77,676 former professional soccer players,
Mm.
um oh sorry, 19 died of the 77,676.
Wow. Mm.
So it's not a leading cause, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm. Wow.
And I think most people,
Mm.
unless you're absolutely terrible at the game,
Yeah.
and you don't play fair, you play
Mm-hmm.
dirty.
Mm-hmm.
Most people know how hard it is to get there, and most people support you.
Yeah.
And you'll become a cultural icon like Maradona or Pelé.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah. Yeah.
people were
Exactly.
Maradona wasn't even the cleanest player, but he became such a cultural icon that
Mm.
when he died, it was Argentina like had
Yeah.
a heart attack or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
many people, how many people attended his funeral?
Uh,
Um, oh, okay. It was a private funeral, so only 2 dozen
private. Okay.
people, but
That's still a lot.
tens of thousands of people
Yeah.
walked by his coffin earlier in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And they say the amount of people that show up to your funeral says a lot about the people you impacted.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
That's what I love, man. That's what I love about soccer. It's and to be honest with you, I think that says a lot about the countries as well. I feel like for there to be a dominant sport in a country, and then for that team of that sport to then go and compete, in the World Cup and actually compete against other countries. I think that says a lot about the unification of the country. What about you? What do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you have a point there.
Mm-hmm.
But also playing in different leagues like the Champions League,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all those different leagues in Europe. Europe are the big leagues
Yeah.
where every player wants to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, with some of the South American teams, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I don't know about other teams, other countries' teams, but a lot of the South American teams,
Yeah.
when they go into Europe and they play, they spread out among all the different players from everywhere, right?
Mm.
And they play well. But when they come back and play with their own countrymen, they
Yeah.
hog the ball and they don't. They're not
Oh
as.
wow.
It's interesting.
Mm.
They're not as they're not as open to cooperation. It's
Mm.
interesting.
Why is that? Why do you think that is that?
I honestly I don't really know. Maybe because they want to look good in
Yep.
Europe
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and look good for their country against other people, playing
Yeah.
with other people from different countries. But when they come back, maybe they're just like, oh, it's just that guy. He's from my country. It doesn't matter, or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So that's been like a trend lately. That's kind of been seen inside of soccer.
Well, I've seen it in a couple soccer teams, like
Wow.
the Colombian soccer team. I've definitely seen it there,
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen it in a couple others. But
Mm.
yeah, it's interesting. It's
That's
very
really
interesting.
interesting. Yeah, like it's in a sense forgetting where you came from. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of looking down, like you said. How many soccer players go back to their actual country and make an impact? Like in terms of like donating, maybe. Do you see a lot of
I
that
have
as
no
well?
idea. I have no
Mm,
idea.
okay.
It's definitely dependent on the person because there are a lot of
Yeah.
good people playing soccer and there are a lot of not good people playing soccer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I don't know. It's probably completely random.
Yeah. 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 I would say the same about football, like American football. Like it's
Yeah.
definitely you definitely don't really hear a lot of people going back to their country or or their state and actually making an impact in terms of the hometown. Now maybe there may be certain things that's like dedicated there or sponsored there because of the player. But yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, let's get into the pay. How about the pay of a soccer player compared to a football player? Do you feel like that's fair? Or actually, I'm not really sure how what's the average pay of a soccer player?
Depends on your skill level. Messi was
Mm,
offered I think a $1.4 billion
are
contract to
you
go to Saudi
serious?
Arabia. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
But the cool thing was that was
Oh.
when he was on Barcelona. And
Mm,
Messi and Ronaldo both have really interesting origin stories. So
mm,
Messi, he had a really weird, I don't know the disease as a
yeah.
kid,
Hmm.
but the treatment was insanely costly. And the teams were scouting him, right? Because he was
Yeah.
really good. And
Hmm.
he'd say, "Can you pay for my treatment or whatever?" And they'd be like, no thanks. And Barcelona was the one team who said, "All right, we'll pay for your treatment."
Mm.
And so he went to Barcelona and he stayed there until they couldn't afford him. He stayed there for the rest. He would have stayed there for the rest of his career,
Let's go.
even though he was offered so much more money.
Yep.
He just stayed there.
Yep.
And then, of course, Barcelona ended up not being able to afford him.
Yeah.
So they traded him to PSG. Then he went to Inter Miami. And that's the best, one of the best players in the world. So
Mm-hmm.
his pay is insane. But um
Yeah, it's like 54 million is what I'm seeing here. Like,
for an average a soccer player.
well, for Messi. Yeah, it's for Messi.
Oh,
Yeah, 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 definitely Messi. Not,
okay.
yeah. My goodness.
Okay, so
It's probably more than that, actually.
yeah, so an average it average for the MLS
Mhm.
in America is 350K a year. That's
Wow.
average. But
Wow.
if you're in European leagues or English leagues,
Hmm.
that goes up to 3 to 5 million per year.
Wow.
And then of course the top players like Mbappe and Ronaldo and
Hmm.
Messi
Hmm.
and Neymar, you have up in the 80 to 100 million range.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That man, that is. I mean, it's insane. Now, again, granted, I'm not sure how that compares to the football players. I'm pretty sure it may be about the same. Um, but do you think that's a fair price for the toll that they, put their body through when it comes to soccer, or even football, or just leaning towards soccer more so because that's the sport you played. But do you feel like it's fair to this amount of money?
Well, I kind of have an interesting take on it.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's not probably popular with a lot of people, my
Mm-hmm.
take at least.
Uh-oh.
But
Here we go.
um so they go through a lot. They do.
Mm-hmm.
But they get to do something
Mm-hmm.
that they love. They bring, I mean, it's not that what they do is not important at all.
Yeah.
What they do is very important for their countries.
Right.
But in terms of what fair pay, I would say that a lot of the money that goes into sports, just any sports anywhere, should
Mm-hmm.
go towards doctors or
Mm-hmm.
teachers or other underpaid workers that we really need to up the pay for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in terms of so it's yeah, I have an interesting take on it.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. No. Hey, this is gonna be a snippet. I know a lot of people are gonna probably not gonna like you for this, but yeah. No, you're right.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that is definitely, I think, or at least to some degree, should be questioned. I asked someone else this as well. Actually made a piece of content on this, and someone stated that it's the attention. The money comes with
Yeah.
attention, and because there's so many eyes on sports, that's where the money is.
Yeah. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
that's completely true.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, of course they should be paid a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
100 million
Yeah.
playing a sport for 20 to 30 years
Mm-hmm.
while you have teachers teaching the next generation making
Mm-hmm.
like 45, 50K a year,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you
Or
know?
biologists who are changing,
Yeah.
protecting the
And
climate. Yeah.
it's just a lot of money goes into sports. A whole bunch of money just kind of drowns in the sport industry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually gonna check how much money is spent on sports here
Mm-hmm.
around the world.
Yeah. I would love to know that.
Wow. Okay, so 2023,
Mm-hmm.
512 billion, the global sports market.
Oh my goodness.
And that grew from 486 billion last year. So that jumped a whole almost 20 billion.
Wow.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, almost 30 billion.
Wow. That's insane. Like,
That yeah.
you're right. You're right. And again, they persist when there's war. They persist when it's COVID. They go through all measures to make sure that sports is.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's because the amount of money it brings in, because
Yep.
sports brings in so much money,
Yep.
because going to the games
Mm-hmm.
and watching on TV, buying
Mm-hmm.
subscriptions to watch the
Mm-hmm.
games,
Mm-hmm. The
and
venues. Yeah.
yeah, the venues. And another thing, I know this, I don't know a lot about other countries, but I do know this is true about Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think it was a couple years ago or last year or something
Mm-hmm.
that they were making soccer like sports.
Mm.
So I think it was last World Cup. I don't
Yeah.
think Colombia's or last men's World Cup, Colombia didn't make it in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that kind of actually threw a wrench in the Colombian
Mm.
politicians' plan, because Colombia's government is quite corrupt.
Mm.
But
Wow. Oh,
and it threw a wrench in their plans because they were going to make voting
yeah.
on the days that the Colombian team played.
Mm.
So everybody would watch the Colombian like games,
Yeah.
and the people they wanted to vote, they'd pay people to come in and vote, and then they could win by landslide because nobody came in to vote because they were watching the games.
Mm.
So instead of doing that, they said, "Oh, there's no sales tax," so people went and started and shopped.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Manipulation. That's crazy.
yeah. Thankfully, though, the the drug companies were endorsing didn't actually make it in, so that's good.
Okay. That's good. Yeah.
But the it sports are definitely can be used as a distraction
Yeah.
from
Yep.
underworkings.
Yep. Yep.
And in the men's World Cup as well, there was all that controversy about uh Qatar and all
Mm.
of their workers and
Yeah.
the forced laborers.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I watched this thing on it, and they were so what they did was they'd promise jobs and money to
Mm-hmm.
other people from other countries,
Mm-hmm.
like third world countries. Like it was these three or four specific countries or something,
Yeah.
and they would have to pay for their ticket to come over to Qatar. They'd come there, they'd go, and they would apply for a job. But to get that job, they had to
Mm.
turn in their passport and their visa. So they were
What?
trapped in the country,
What?
and they couldn't get out.
Oh my goodness.
And the living conditions were terrible, and um the wage was barely anything.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people did die. A bunch of people died.
That's horrible, man. That is horrible.
It is.
That
That
is
was that was
horrible.
for building the soccer stadiums, the World
That's
Cup soccer
horrible. Are you
stadiums.
serious?
Yeah, it was terrible. That's why a lot of like a lot of the singers and
Yeah.
artists that the World Cup Federation asked to come in and do stuff for
Yeah.
the games,
Hmm.
they declined because they didn't like the amount of human rights violations.
Yeah. Man, that's insane, man.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's insane. Again, talk about the dark side of sports. Like
Yeah.
that's not talked about a lot.
Yeah. Sports definitely does have a dark side.
The dark side has a dark side. Manipulation. There's higher ups, the people who own the teams, filthy
The
rich.
people, the people who pay off
Yep.
the refs.
Oh, that's another thing, man. How
Yeah.
often is that? Like, how often do you how often do you think those circumstances or instances
Well,
become
nobody really
something?
knows how often it is.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know last World Cup, I don't remember which games
Mm,
it was. One
mm.
of the refs did get caught
Oh,
for being paid to make calls against another team.
yo, my goodness.
So the fact that it got into the World Cup where they do background
Yeah.
checks,
Hmm.
it honestly nobody really knows how much it
How
happens.
much
It could be
happened?
happening almost every game or almost never.
Yeah.
Just, you don't really know.
Yeah. That's scary. And
Yeah,
it takes away from the fun of the game. It takes away from the passion, right? Like
it
you
does. If everything's staged, then there's no
ex-
reason to watch it, you know?
exactly. 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 And I guess you don't want to discredit skill, right? Because I'm trying not
No,
to.
yeah, no, you do not,
Yeah.
definitely do not want to discredit the players. The
Yeah.
players go through insane amounts of training and
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
workouts, and they put their whole body into it and
Mm-hmm.
their whole soul and mind. I know a lot of players do get divorces over their game of
My
over it because
goodness.
their
Oh,
partner will say, stop playing that. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do, maybe make
yeah.
compromises, but the
Yeah.
partner will say, like, choose between soccer and me, and they'll
Yeah.
choose the game,
Mm-hmm.
or they'll choose the money.
Yeah.
It depends.
Do you feel like higher up players like Messi or Ronaldo? Do you feel like those type of guys are oftentimes maybe presented with levels of bargain?
I think that they're at a level
Mm,
where if they were presented with um, money to say, oh, you lose this game, I think that both of them have enough, just they have enough
mm-hmm.
self-confidence that
Mm,
they would say, no, we're going to play the game
yeah.
cleanly and fairly. If we lose, we lose, but if we win, we didn't pay you to win.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree.
And a lot of the times it's not the players, it's the refs, it's the coaches. Sorry, not
That
refs, it's the owners, it's the
the
coaches,
owners, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That is so true. Getting paid off and then call, like you said, it could be one call that a ref makes that alters the entire game.
Yeah.
Wow. What about when it comes to steroids, things of that nature? Do you feel like that's pretty rampant when it comes to soccer or
Well, I think they do tests for that.
okay.
So it's not as easy to get in. I
Okay.
mean, I'm sure there are probably a couple cases, but
Yeah,
it's not, I
absolutely.
don't think
Mhm.
it's as rampant.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. Man, this is you have literally, brought in topics I they were probably light years away from my thought until you just like you literally I feel like should start your own podcast because like
Nah, I don't know about that.
no man, like literally the research that you just put out, like the in the things that the stats that you brought into the discussion, they were so um pivotal to like what we were talking about. They were so relevant to the point to where it's like, I admire it. I admire how you came with such fact base or levels of evidence that backed up what we were talking about. That really just added to the intensity, of the discussion, man. Like I appreciate that. I appreciate the dark side of the sport that you just exposed. I think that right there is something I'm probably definitely wanting to like bring you back on for because I feel like that's something that's not talked about a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad I could help.
Yeah,
You
I
asked
mean,
some great questions as well.
I appreciate it.
You
Yeah.
gave me the ability to answer your questions, and
Hey man, this you know what you're talking about. Like that's the thing too. Like you've done your research. You see, you did a whole documentary. Like I was like, when you told me that, I was like, man, this is perfect. Because again, I love to talk. Like that's why I named
yeah,
the brand Let's Just Talk Trade. I love talking about it. And sports is something that I'm always bouncing back and forth from. From skateboarding to basketball. Again, soccer is something I'm getting into. Football and but it's just the whole general conversation of sports in general. I think now touching on some of the things I touched on with you, the dark sides, the injustices when it comes to how they can manipulate the market or the entire country based off of sports, off of
yeah,
sport. Like that is that is just that's mind blowing, man, because it happened here in America, with the kneeling, right? The you know, being on one knee when the police brutality when that thing came about and
oh yeah,
sports were doing
yeah,
that, and Nike kind of got behind it, and certain brands started pulling players, and certain players, like literally sports can move a nation.
It can. Sports has the power
Come on.
to change basically the world. It
Yes,
has
it has.
it has it enraptures everybody who
Mm-hmm.
finds it, who watches it, who sees it, because it's I think it's because it's different than everything
Mm-hmm.
else. You have online games,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
have work that you do,
Yep.
you have fashion, you have all this stuff, but there's nothing like a physical game of sports, any sport, you know?
Mm-hmm. 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 Exactly. Exactly. I've always wondered that. You know, when people a sport that I've recently kind of came into. Actually, I didn't even know it was a sport until now, but I just chuckled when I first initially saw it because I just couldn't believe this was a sport. But slap what's it called? Power slapping?
Oh my goodness.
Yo, like
Yeah.
have you seen that, Nate?
I
Like
have. I have. That
what
is
what do you think about that, man? Like what
I mean, I think you're gonna have some brain injuries, but it's pretty crazy.
it's crazy. I don't understand. Like they're literally wearing earplugs, I guess, so that you know that their eardrums won't ring while they're getting slapped. But like, I, again, I don't know much about that sport. I was having a debate with somebody on YouTube. You can go check it out. We were debating in the comments of the content I posted the other day, and I was just like, you know, I really don't understand how you even prepare for this. You know, how do you have to run? Do you do cardio? Do you do you know like I don't know what you do.
Yeah,
You know, it's like, but again, going back to like you said, the level by which a sport can amass a following. You know that millions of people are watching people get slapped. Nate, that's
that's mind-boggling. That's crazy. That is wow. Man,
I just again, but again, maybe someone else would say that about soccer or someone,
yeah.
you
It
know.
it yeah. Some people think soccer's too soft of a sport. Some
Mm-hmm.
people think, say, boxing is too hard of a
Mm-hmm.
sport. It
Mm-hmm.
depends on what you're into, because
Exactly.
sports has both ends. And then, of course, track and field is probably one of the most non-aggressive
Yes. Yep.
parts of sports, but it's definitely competitive, very competitive, but it's not aggressive
Mm-hmm.
opposed to like boxing or something. So even if you aren't an aggressive person, you still have sports. You still have a sport you can follow, sports you can follow. And if you
Mm-hmm.
are an aggressive person, boxing, power slapping, you have
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so true. That is so true. Like again, I'm very curious to see what actually becomes of sports 10 years from now, you know, 20 years from now. Like, I don't know, maybe I mean, it may be butt slapping at some point. Like literally, you know, like
You
that may become a
that would
sport,
be
man.
that would be insane.
Like I could literally see these things becoming a sport. Like, you know, people are literally slapping people now. Like you can just imagine what's next. I don't know, toe slapping or you know, toe like
Yeah.
it's just you know, there used to be skateboards where you could like do the finger skateboarding. Maybe that become a sport where maybe that may amass a following. I have no idea. Um,
Yeah.
it's mind boggling, like you said. It's mind boggling. I do have one more question for you.
Shoot.
What would you say is maybe the most underrated thing about soccer that most people don't know or don't highlight?
The amount of skill with and control over your feet and the ball,
Mm,
because
mm,
everybody's talking about shots
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
passing, but you do need a
mm,
form of footwork. You do
yeah,
need that.
mm-hmm,
Actually, sorry, I take that back.
mm-hmm,
I think the most underrated aspect of soccer is teamwork. A lot of people
mm, mm-hmm,
look at the one or two players that are striking,
mm-hmm,
who make the goals,
mm-hmm.
but it's the team that makes those attacks possible. The defense gets it to the midfield,
Mm,
midfield gets it to the attack. If attack misses, if the strikers miss and an attack comes back,
mm,
it's the goalkeeper who stops it. So it's a team effort. You can't
mm,
win with one player.
mm, mm. Wow, that is dope. That is, I love it, man. I love it. I'm so glad you highlighted that aspect of it because again, one of the most exciting reasons why I was just so ready for you to come on was because again, you being the first person I talk sports with, it wasn't just the typical basketball or football, you know, American football or um, golf or something. It wasn't those sports that we just see ESPN highlighting all the time, but it's soccer.
Yeah.
Like,
And
mm-hmm,
that's the thing. In America, you don't see that. But in every other country,
mm-hmm,
soccer, I don't know every, but a lot,
yeah, most, yeah,
majority,
mm-hmm,
soccer is the biggest thing, biggest sport you'll see.
yep, yep,
And soccer stars like Ronaldo and Messi are probably some of the most famous people on earth. A
yep,
lot more famous than say Taylor Swift
yeah, yeah,
or musical artists probably.
yeah, yeah, mm-hmm, exactly. Soccer's everywhere. Africa, China, like it's on every continent.
It is. It
It's on
is.
every continent. That's crazy. That is so crazy, man. Like I appreciate this, Nate. I think it actually took courage to even come on here and actually talk about a sport that, again, you were born in America and yet you still represent this sport, and I love that. I love that. Like you represented it as a sport that should be held high and not.
As long honestly, doesn't matter where you're from, as long as you love the game, as long
Mhm,
as you play it, as long as you watch it, it even if you don't do that, is if you
mhm,
love the game and you play it and you know how it works, you 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 can support it.
mhm,
You're a fan. Like
mhm.
you don't have to be a super fan,
Yeah.
but you definitely do show that it's a sport that's worth watching, a sport that's
Hmm.
worth supporting.
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly. I love it. I love this, man. I think again, it's something that I think this discussion in general will awake a lot of people who tend to sleep on soccer, who tend to see it as just a sport that is just it's just there. And like you said, maybe a lot of people may see it as a poor sport, but look at you just named the billions of dollars that are pouring into that sport.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
yeah.
poor, it's over in Africa, oh, it's over in South America, and those. No, do you not realize what this sport has done?
I hope so. I hope so. I think it's a sport that should be recognized all around.
Yeah,
Not putting down any other sports though. I think all people who worked
yeah,
towards a goal and all people who get into the major leagues who've worked everything,
yep,
they deserve acknowledgments.
exactly, exactly. Nate, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for your time. Thank you and I got to bring you back on, man. I'm not sure if you have a Facebook, but actually I have a sports group. We actually chat in there, oftentimes. And I think there's a guy that's actually from Europe there, and he talks about soccer, often. So again, if you wanted to join us there, man, you can. I have a public and private group. The public group is free. But yeah, man, I would love to have you back on again, at some point, just to even just chop it up, and go deeper in terms of elements of sports. But nonetheless, man, I appreciate you, and your time and the dedication that you put into the topic, man, the call. You came prepared, and that's what I asked for. And you just came as yourself. And I'm grateful. I'm truly grateful, Nate. If you want to, man, could you shout out your social media so that people who may want to hit you up, maybe they want to debate with you, maybe they didn't like some of the things you said. Like if you,
Oh dear.
yeah, I know, right?
All
Trust me,
right.
I get them. I get them a lot. So they will eat you up, man. If you don't want, if you don't want that, then you don't have to mention your social media. But if you want people to follow you, maybe because they did like it, you can let them know your social media.
All right. I'll put my instant chat. Um yeah. Uh
Oh, you're changing it here.
huh?
You're changing it inside of the Zoom.
Oh yeah, I'm putting it in the chat here.
Okay, cool, cool.
There's my Instagram.
Perfect. Okay.
All
Gotcha.
right. Well, thank you, man, for this opportunity. This was great. I had
Absolutely.
fun.
Absolutely, man. And actually, I'll probably be posting this tonight. So definitely be on the lookout. I'll be tagging you in it as well. And did you also want, because oftentimes when I do this, when I do it as a podcast, I'll use the other person's picture. as a form of like displaying who's actually talking. Did you want me to do that? And if so, you could just send me a few pictures over, or I could just actually grab pictures of the topic we're talking about. So if it's Messi or we're talking about, Ronaldo or something like that, I could just grab that and make a collage out of that. So which one would you prefer?
Um, I'll stay incognito just in
Okay.
case somebody really doesn't like
Yeah.
my opinions.
Right. No, I
Yeah,
agree. I
but
agree.
thanks, man. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much, bro. And we'll be chatting soon, man. I'll make sure I tag you in everything I post.
All right. Take care, man. This
You
was
as well,
great.
Nate. Thank you,
Hope to
bro.
see you again.
Absolutely. Sure will.
Take care.
Thank you.